Hey, yeah, ba hey, hey, how you doing? I always try to. It's funny because it cut you, Mike, laughing because I always try to change the camera angle to me right before it goes live, so I can,
God forbid they put cameras on my face.
yeah. But for whatever reason, despite no matter how many times I do that, your face always ends up in the Google thing. Like they love you.
The camera wants what it wants.
The camera wants what it wants, which is really Jillian.
The camera knows quality. It knows women like me.
Well, it does. It knows they like you and they respect you. And it what's this thing going on here? What the hell? So I got and Jillian's gonna be back soon. I talked to Jillian. She's coming back soon. So she's those who have asking for Jillian is so funny. YouTube is so transparent. You guys are so pathetic. I have to throw this out there. I'm a guy too, so I agree that I'm pathetic as well. We will just click on something with a blonde woman on it way more than we'll click on something with Mike on it. I mean, that's just the reality of it. It's nothing against you, Mike. It's just.
Well, I don't have.
Good to see I've been missed too. That's great.
You've definitely been missed.
I don't have Josh Rimmer's blonde wig, so I can't.
Yeah, well, that's true. None of this. Everything changes when you throw Josh into the equation. But let's not even go there. Josh is great too. I talked to him recently. But no, Dan, we missed you. We're going to get into the show right away because we got to stop at 2. I am heading out for a little bit, and there will be shows next week, but it'll be I will be sketching, and I'm going to be on my week in Florida with my family, my wife's family actually. This are my families too, and I'll count them as my family. And we're going to be down there in the Longboat Key area, a couple Tampa. I might be checking out Tampa and the Flyers, who play next Wednesday while I'm there.
You can check out Steven Stamkos' scar on his knee.
Right. And all, so yeah, I'm looking forward to going down there. And then, but first this weekend I spend in freezing cold Lancaster for a day while I go to a soccer tournament for my daughter, and then I'm off to fly from there. But let's get started, and we will get right into it because we haven't had Dan. We've got lots of questions for Dan.
Oh, I have no answers.
All right, there's the go. So stick around for that.
Yeah, back to you.
There's the teaser.
Yeah.
Wait a
the best teaser ever. I've got nothing.
Welcome back, Dan. Wait a solid.
Here we go. Donating. Still can't find my mallet for my bell. All right. Hello, Hockey World. It's Friday. Woohoo! November 11th, 2018.
What?
No, it's not November 11th.
And it's not.
I haven't messed up the date in weeks.
I don't believe you.
It's Veterans Day 2 years from now.
Oh, Lord. Why would I think of November 11th? I am so sorry. All right. Hello, Hockey World. It's Friday, November 18th, 16.
That's
Just
good.
trust me, it's 2016. Go ahead.
I'm Michael Agello, and I get the date right.
I'm Dan Petru, and nothing's changed.
But would you like it any other way, Dan? Come on. And I'm Eklund. You're watching the HockeyBuzzCast on HockeyBuzz.com. This is the podcast that tries to be as professional as you possibly can, especially when Dan's here, but we fail miserably. And yeah, but we are very happy today to have Dan Petru, and we're not happy to not have Russ, of course, but we're happy to have Dan here today, and because we have a lot of questions. Dan, last we talked, things have gotten from lousy to lousier.
Well, let me open with a question here for Dan. How many votes of confidence can Garth Snow give before he fires Jack Capuano?
It's all crap. I don't believe a word of anything that comes out of this organization's mouth. I believe nothing. Yep. Let me rephrase that. I believe nothing that Garth Snow says. He's lost me. It's delusional. Like the quote the other day that Jack Capuano is a good coach because he coached Team USA at the World Cup. How'd they do at the World Cup? I mean, seriously. It's just stop lying to the fan base. And the funny thing is, as much as Jack Capuano does not deserve to be employed right now, he isn't the biggest problem.
No, he's not. No,
you can only spin the wheel of deplorables at forward so many times. Right. At the end of the day, it's going to stop at Alan Quine or Shane Prince. Or it's like you can't blame Capuano for that. That's Garth Snow's fault. And Garth Snow needs to be fired immediately. Yes. And I'm not – actually, I said that the day Taylor Hall was traded to New Jersey, he should have been fired. But that's another story for another time.
I'll vouch for that. I have, I think, a lot of texts from you saying that exact thing.
But with that being said, I've actually talked to some people within the organization, and Jonathan Ledecky wants to make changes. The problem is he has a list. He has people in mind. He has a game plan going forward. The problem is the people he wants are employed by other teams right now.
Yep. That makes sense. And but they might not be much longer. I mean, there are some people who couldn't possibly be on the outs. I mean, who would you think? I mean, where would you go with this, Dan?
Honestly,
if anybody, I mean, the people, even taking the people who are currently employed by other teams right now.
I don't know if they could get hit for head coach.
Yeah.
My number one choice would be Kevin Dineen.
Yeah, I'm so with you on that.
He would be my number one. For GM, I don't know.
Okay,
I don't know.
I mean, in looking at the names of people who were on the list of potential coaches going in the summer who did not get jobs, and I'm not talking about guys who are being recycled. The one at the top of the list for me would be former New York Islander Travis Green, who's coaching.
I would be fine with him.
And he's a hot commodity, and I mean, Utica. I mean, the thing is that Vancouver may make the move first. If they fire Willie Desjardins, I would think that Travis Green is probably the leading candidate to take over for Desjardins if he gets fired in Vancouver. But like the Islanders, I don't think the problem is Willie Desjardins. I think the problem lies higher. And with Vancouver, I think it's the ownership. I think the
problem is just teams on islands. I mean, when you think about it,
so Montreal's fine.
Yeah, but they're not. I mean, on ocean islands, like islands out in the middle of nowhere.
They are on an island.
They are on an island. That's very good. No, I love your geography knowledge. I've always said that, Dan, about you. But yeah, and
isn't Pittsburgh an island too?
Yeah, well, no man's an island. Yeah, Pittsburgh is an island too. Yeah,
okay.
For sure.
They're okay too.
They're surrounded by 3 rivers.
But I mean, general manager wise, I mean, the name, right. One of the names that always comes up is Paul Fenton, but I think Paul Fenton is going to be the guy who takes over for David Poile eventually in Nashville. He's been there too long. I wouldn't think that he would be staying there as long as he has if he wasn't the heir apparent there. But
the name I keep hearing is honestly is Bill Zito, who we've talked about before on this show as well, who's a former agent who's a current assistant GM with the Blue Jackets, but was responsible for the AHL team last year that went and won it all at the end. Big reason why Werenski's there now, and he's been a very good guy.
And to be honest, guys, you can sell me on anyone right now.
You
can just throw out a name. You can throw out like Phyllis Diller, and I could probably make an argument why she could be the general manager of this team.
What's your system like? So Dan, you were the general manager of this team. Suddenly we've called, and in a surprise move, you've been hired away from Hockey Buzz. I just got the call. I have to call you, Dan. I gave them permission to talk to you. You've been granted permission to talk to you. They're bringing you in. And I tried to sell them on Mike, but they wouldn't take him. So they want you instead. You're going in. What are you going to say? What are you saying to Mr. Wong?
Well, he doesn't work there anymore. So,
so the people who represent.
What would I say to Mr. Ledecky? I would say that this team needs to get back to where it was a few years ago. This team,
Mr. Wong, this is not your team anymore. All right,
it was a tough team to play against. It was fast. It was a possession-based team, and now it's just it's a rudderless ship right now. And they need to model themselves over the new NHL. You don't need to have stay-at-home defensemen. You need puck movers. You need to be fast. Look at the teams that are successful right now. The Rangers blatantly copied the Penguins, and guess what? It's working. They also need guys that can develop their prospects, because what's the point of having your prospects if you can't develop them once you get into the NHL?
Well, I mean, the one advantage that the Islanders have right now, Dan, and I think you know this. First of all, they have a really good young group of forwards, but I just don't think
I don't know if they do. I don't know if they do.
Well, I don't think Barzal was ready. I think Beauvillier, the German.
Oh, okay. I thought you were talking about the other ones.
No, I'm talking about the guys in the pipeline. But no, I mean, I think they need help at forward. I think so far the Andrew Ladd signing is a disaster. But they do have a backlog of defensemen. They have a lot of, I would say, at least a group of 3 or 4 players who are potential 4 or 5 defensemen that other teams might be able to use. I think of Toronto, and right now you said that basket of deplorables in terms of the Islanders forwards. Well, there's a basket of deplorables in terms of the Leafs defense.
That's true.
That would be a potential matchup where the Leafs could trade one of their forwards for a DeHaan or one of those defense.
Mitch Marner for DeHaan, I like it. You've heard it here first, folks.
Yeah, dream on. Okay, yeah. Now how about Nazem Kadri for Travis Hamonic? I'll take that. But I'm just saying.
I don't want that.
Yeah, I'm just saying that they do have a stockpile of defensemen, and they can use that to maybe get some help it forward. But at this point, as they keep losing, the ability to jump back in the race I don't think is there. And
I'm not even thinking about the playoffs. I was reading up on Nolan Patrick the other day. I mean, seriously. I mean, no, seriously. If you're gonna stink and you're gonna throw away the season like it seems they're doing, because like Art Snow's saying everything's fine and we're gonna fix this, they're saying we're throwing the season away. So if you're gonna throw away the season, suck. Finish in the top 3. Don't finish 11. Don't finish 12. That doesn't help you. Try and finish last.
This is music to my ears. Where have I heard this before? Jeez.
Oh no. I don't know if
they're bad enough to. I don't know if they're bad enough to have the worst record.
I don't think they are. And I think the problem is that they are not. I mean, that's not the problem, but they really are. I mean, Nolan Patrick, who is out there, obviously is a great prospect, but is also hurt again. Nolan Patrick's been having quite a hellish year.
Yeah, but
and there's a lot of people that and that's like the kind of thing that has to scare the hell out of teams that are looking at.
Sure, but you know what I mean. Though my point is, if you're gonna suck, go all in.
Great, great prospects out there. So for sure. I mean, and I think that. I mean, listen. I mean, the Capuano and Snow are they the oldest tandem, like tenured tandem in the NHL right now? I think
Quinville and Bowman are.
Okay, so they are the only ones who are older. I mean, that's saying something. I mean, let's see, won 3 Stanley Cups, won one playoff round. I mean,
Lombardi and Sutter are pretty close.
I think I looked it up. I think Sutter came along after.
I think Sutter's after Capuano for sure. Yeah,
he is. Yeah, I looked it up when I was writing one of my manifestos the other day, and I believe
which are very good, by the way. You got to. You gotta follow Dan's manifestos. They are really. I mean, I get lots of. We have so many passionate Islanders fans out there, and guys even who used to write for the site, who are Islanders fans who have been emailing me saying, "Wow, Dan's got it. Dan's on about these things."
Thank you, Dan Marks.
No, they're really good. I mean, they're really strong and they're well thought out and well put together. So keep it up.
I mean, you have to be honest with yourself. Like as covering the team, I have to be honest with the team, and this is what I see. I just wish the organization would be honest with itself, and it's not.
Well, okay. I mean, we will continue to bring this up until he signs the extension. And I'm
Stop. Here's the thing: if he leaves, he's not going to Toronto. So pick a different team.
Yeah, I think Buffalo. I mean, I honestly, if there's another team, and we heard the other day, Dan, the argument. I don't know if you got to see it or not, but we were talking about. Okay, you've got 2 of his buddies there in Buffalo, right? But 2 of his former line mates.
Well, one of his buddies won't be there much longer because I have a feeling Matt Molson is going to end up getting bought out or getting picked up in expansion. He's actually having a little bit of a bounce back year this year, but
it's really interesting. I want to throw this out there really quick as an aside. There is this, and it's Islanders related. So then we'll get, and it ties in. So trust me, it's not a total aside. There's this website called Pluto.tv. If you ever get a chance to go to it, Pluto.tv. Is a service. It's like a it's really amazing. It's like a bunch of TV stations. It's almost like cable TV on the internet. And what they do is I don't know how they get it, but they get old hockey games and they've got all a bunch of different things. Last night they were playing Halak against the Capitals in game 7 of that series way back then.
Yeah, that was great.
2010.
I mean, great stuff in general. And then they also have like a behind the scenes. They play a lot of the behind the scenes NHL stuff. Like last night I was watching Okposo when his child was born. Remember that episode? You remember seeing that episode on TV?
Yep.
It was really good. And that was really interesting because that's like the Andrew McDonald Islanders still, and you're seeing the whole thing and seeing how Okposo acted in that locker room and reacted with his. I really just got more and more pissed off about what they did to him. Not, of course, I'm watching him get his child born, and I know there's a lot more than the emotions that I'm feeling and all that for the guy. But I think that I can see why now the reputation that they've given Okposo is what it is, but I can also kind of see how it could possibly be not fair.
The way I look at it is this. It's like, I don't, look, it's a business. There's turnover, players leave, players come and go. You choose to keep some, you choose to keep. I don't, look, if they decided Okposo wasn't right for this team and they didn't think he was worth his money, so be it. I'm not one to argue that. My problem is the plan to replace all of this did not work.
Right.
When Jason Chimera is your opening night right wing, you failed. When Josh Bailey's still in your top 6, you failed. Right.
And I mean, and this has been a team that has been waiting for prospects for a long time to come up. And they are coming up, but they're not making the impact that you necessarily wanted them to make. This is a Gar Snow, very draft driven. We're going to build this through the draft, build through the draft.
I said the other day in one of the podcasts with Noel, I said that Garth Snow reminds me of Gollum from Lord of the Rings. Okay, so the ring in this instance is all his prospects. He doesn't know what to do with them at the NHL level, but he'll be damned if he can live without him. He can't live without his prospect. He can't live without the ring. He doesn't know what to do with it.
That's fantastic. I like that's a great. You should watch that podcast. I should watch that podcast. Garth Gollum.
Yeah,
I like it.
what website is it on?
Yeah, it's on this other
I know, right? It's hard to find. Don't worry.
Yeah,
it's deep cuts. But no, it's like, what's the point of having these prospects if you don't manage your assets?
No, you're right.
It's just like you could ease. They have all the prospects in the world. They have all the picks in the world. They have tradable pieces. It's like now he's just realizing he needs a right wing. It's just
right.
It's ridiculous.
Right. And someone said to me the other day, which was really kind of poignant, was they said the Islanders' success has been because they built so slowly that they continued moving forward, but at a pace that was so slow that you could never say they were moving backwards.
Yeah.
But then when you get to the point where you win, once you make the playoffs, that's a big deal. Then winning a playoff round, that's a big deal. But every one of the next steps they take from making the playoffs to winning the round and winning 2 rounds is infinitely harder than they were the other steps to get there.
But the one thing that I look at, Dan, that puzzles me is, okay, I know they have injuries on the blue line. I know Hamonic came back a lot earlier than people thought he was going to.
He shouldn't even be playing right now.
A lot earlier.
And I don't understand that. If he's hurt, he's hurt.
He's hurt, yes.
I know the team's in trouble, but get back to 100%. But they do have their top 3 on the blue line, I think, are very good. They've got a great number 1 center in Tavares. So they have pieces there that are part of the formula of a winning organization. But what I don't understand is Garth Snow has all these assets. A guy like Josh Hosang, where there's warning signs out there, you could have moved that guy for a piece.
What are the warning signs? I'm sick of that shit. I'm sorry, excuse my French, but I don't understand why the media is so hard on this kid. He's learning the game. He got healthy scratched 1 game in the minors. He's been very, very good in the minors, and you can argue he could have made the team. Let the kid play. I don't understand why the media treats him like a football player who drove drunk and killed somebody, and I don't understand that.
I'm talking about going back to junior. There's warning signs in terms of his attitude. Now maybe he outgrows that, but the other thing that I don't understand is, and you can tell me about this, is players that I thought on a secondary level, like Anders Lee, like Brock Nelson, I thought those guys would be the foundation. I thought the organization made a mistake a few years back signing Grabowski and Kuhlman to big contracts, but then they had, in his rookie year, Lee come out and score more than 20 goals. Brock Nelson was coming around, and now those players have completely disappeared in terms of being effective. Well,
I mean, Nelson is what he is. He's not consistent. He's not my kind of player because he's 6'3" and he plays like he's 5'8". He reminds me that frustrates me just as someone who's 6'3" and did not play like he was 5'8". But you want more for someone who's that big. You want him to use his size, and maybe you can get a coach to get him into that. But he has 11 points in 17 games. He's still gonna end up with about 45, 50 points. I really can't get on him. Lee has been a disaster. He's just been, I don't know where he's gone. And the one who really puzzles me more is, how did Ryan Strome score 50 points his rookie year? Yeah. It's like, there's talent there, and it's like all of them have I don't know what it is. It's between their ears.
Who is he playing with?
Who
were line mates his rookie year? I'm trying to remember.
They were Lee and Nelson, and then sometimes Tavares, and he's playing with Tavares tonight. And I think all of that goes to the voice behind the bench. They need a new voice. Yeah. They need a new system. Like, they are playing this dump and chase game, but they're not built to be this kind of team. Like, I actually kept track the other day. It was last week. They dumped the puck in 54 times in one game. 54 times.
Wow.
They retrieved the puck 4 times. They won the battles in the boards 4 times and created 1 shot on goal.
That'll do it.
They're playing the wrong system for their team. It's just really frustrating.
The dump and chase in general.
We got 29 other teams to talk about. Let's
we will. We will talk about all 29 in depth. But no, I agree. I mean, that's 50 times they've lost possession. We talked about this the other day with Kevin Allen about the dump and chase. Is the dump and chase dead? I mean, the dump and chase.
Why give the puck up? Don't give it up.
The concept now, especially with the
dump and
analytics.
The dump and chase is not dead for one simple reason, because the solution that a lot of teams do to teams that carry the puck over the blue line, especially on the power play, is stack all the players on the blue line. So you have to use the option of the dump and chase and use your speed to blow by the defense to get possession of the puck. The problem with what Dan's talking about is they're dumping it in. They're probably not dumping it in with speed, and then they get beaten by either stronger defensemen or the wingers come back who are stronger along the wall. I mean,
their breakouts are terrible. It's just a chip in, and it's with no speed, and not going to win those battles.
No, I mean, I know that you wrote about a rumor coming out about Dylan Strome, and
we're going to get to that.
Okay, we'll talk about that later on. But
but no, that ties into this as well, of course. But yeah, we'll definitely talk about that. Moving on, though, let's move on, and then we'll get a little more Islanders talking then as well. So stay tuned, Islanders fans. There's more. So the Simpsons, which is still, I want to say, I mean, I know, Dan, you're a Simpsons fan.
I haven't watched it in like 5 years, but I like classic Simpsons, and
I was with you, and I'm going to throw something out to you right now. And Mike, are you a Simpsons fan?
I didn't know it was still on TV, honestly.
Mike, okay, so I didn't think you.
I like the Simpsons.
Maybe I'm thinking of Russ or Ty. I'm trying to remember who. What? I'm a huge Simpsons fan, but I'm like you, Dan. I hadn't watched it in 5 years either. And then someone told me that I should start watching this season again because they had gotten really, it like found some kind of rebirth. And it's so true. Like this, if you just start watching these season episodes, they're really, really good. I don't know why. It's amazing. I mean, the show's been on 27, 8 years, whatever it is. But they were looking recently for heroes of the winter. And, they had Santa Claus and Jack Frost. And this one, how about that? Wayne. Mr. Wayne Gretzky is going to be on The Simpsons December 11th on the holiday show. And what about this impresses you? What about this picture impresses you? Because I know what impresses me about this picture.
It looks like him.
It does look like him. If he were yellow and had a big overbite. Yeah.
It's an Edmonton Oilers jersey without the emblem.
Well, there's that, of course, but there's something even bigger in this that this is why the Simpsons are the greatest thing in the world.
He looks like Ron Duguay, actually.
He does look a little like Ron Duguay. This is definitely like circa 1983 Wayne Gretzky. No, the big thing about this is the shirt tucked in on the right side. Come on.
Oh, look at that.
Little things like this that the Simpsons pick up on, that someone knows that this was his thing that he always did, right? And I love it. I love when they find this, when people when there's detail paid attention to like that. I mean, I think that and it's funny because he did that. I read his autobiography years ago, and he did this because all the jerseys were too big for him back when he first started playing. And he tucked it on the right side, and then it became a habit. So he continued doing it. You can't, every Gretzky, you never see him without it.
That was kryptonite, probably. If they had the rule, then he may not have scored 92 goals.
Right. There you go.
It's just funny because you look at I was looking at some vintage video at work. We were doing something for the NHL Network with one of the top goals or whatever, and you just watch the goals that Gretzky scored. It was just like a rip from like the early 80s of Gretzky scoring a bunch of goals, and I'm like, oh, that would be stopped today. That would be stopped today. That's not a goal today. That's not a goal today. It's just crazy. Like, oh my God. It's like, close your 5-hole.
Well,
so funny.
The funny thing is that you can see the difference. I mean, obviously, there's a difference between a goaltender like Carey Price, who's a vacuum, who sucks up everything. He stops everything, and somebody who's a backup goaltender like ex-favorite Carter Hutton. But you saw, in the Nashville-Toronto game on Tuesday, Marek Mazanek, who's the Preds' backup goaltender, he allowed, I think it was 6 goals. The puck basically was going through him. It didn't matter if it was shot right into his chest protector. The puck ended up going through him. And that's the way it was back in the 80s and the 90s. There was always these the goaltenders weren't as big, the equipment wasn't as big, and the puck just got through the goaltenders all the time.
Yeah. Oh, they did. And the big thing about why you had the big point scoring back then was because you had this big difference in players from top to bottom, where now you don't have that. You don't have as good as the best players are, and the worst defenseman in this league. The worst defenseman in this league can skate with, maybe not completely, but can stay with Connor McDavid,
So would Andrew McDonald be a Norris winning defenseman if he played like in the early 80s?
Andrew McDonald, yes, who last night came in for the healthy scratched Shane Gostisbehere and led the Flyers to victory.
Trade him.
I know Gostisbehere, he's old. You got to get rid of him.
I'll take him.
I know a lot of people would, But and the irony yesterday was this crazy though of Gostisbehere being named player of the year in Philadelphia.
That's such a Philadelphia thing. That's just perfect.
No,
it really is.
I talked to people last night, and they were like, the team was so embarrassed by this. They're like, they had no idea. Like, it was funny because he's being named that, and they're all doing their own thing. No one's paying attention to this, right? And he gets that, and he does an interview with Tim Panaccio about, it's so great to be a player of the year. Then, like less than an hour later, the Flyers released that he's a healthy scratch because he's not living up to potential this year. And then Panaccio literally, I said on the podcast yesterday, they called him back. It's like, okay, so I got to get quotes from you now about what it's like to be scratched by a team on the day that you've been named the player of the year.
Did Santa Claus give him the player of the year award?
Right. I mean, the irony of this whole thing, right, is the Flyers, I mean, not that Gostisbehere is an egomaniac at all, because he's not. He's a great kid. But part of their thinking is, okay, we got to get this kid back to reality. We want to put him in the press box, let him watch from, and they always say that.
Yeah, I mean, it just happened to Robbie Fabry. It happens with young players all the time.
It happens, and it's fine. It's no big deal. Put him in the press box, let him watch without that. Let him see the team can succeed without him. He's not the end of the world. He's not the greatest player in the world, except he is the greatest player in the world, according to Philadelphia sports fans, or as Philadelphia sports media is the best player in the city for the entire year. So I don't know which he takes out of yesterday. Does he take out the ego fact that he's been benched for a game, or that he was the player of the year last year? I don't know.
I thought the real punishment would be like, listen, Shane, if you don't pick it up, if you don't start playing together, we're going to pair you with Andrew McDonald. I thought that would be the real punishment.
That would be the real punishment.
Andrew McDonald's a really nice person. I'm sorry, he's a super nice guy. But the jokes are there; they write themselves.
No, as was true when I watched the Okposo thing. He on that video last night. Watching Okposo is obviously a great guy too, and watching that whole thing, and you realize how close that team was, and you also realize how close players are before they're traded for each other. But my favorite moment in that Islanders thing is that was a game that Okposo missed, ironically enough, where Tavares had a hat trick and 2 assists in that game. They had a 5-point game. The game Okposo missed while his child was being born. And right before the game, they have Tavares going up to the bust of Mike Bossy on the wall, and he puts his sticks up against it, and he stares at it, and he grabs inspiration from Bossy. I'm thinking, is this something Tavares really does all the time, or is this really a TV thing? Like, is he actually?
No, he does that. That
was
one of his things, yeah.
Yeah, no, it's really cool. It just made me more and more like John Tavares. I mean,
also for the record, I would actually. How old is Mike Bossy? 54, 55. Yeah. I would try him right now next to John Tavares, in front of some of the guys that they have on this roster.
Why wouldn't you? Well, last night also though, we had another big win for the Maple Leafs in Toronto, and another chance actually to see the Mitch Marner show. He just continues to impress. An incredible goal last year, and that left Morgan Riley to say this. I don't know if you saw this, Mike, but this is really awesome. I got to show you this, guys. So hold on, I'm going to bring it up. But there's Morgan Riley, always very, very fluent with his words. When asked about the young rookies, said this. Here we go. Let me get the volume for you guys here. And play. Hold on. I don't know if you can make that out or not, but he said, I'm sorry about the crazy dream within a dream screen sharing. But no, he said, I didn't think we thought the rookies would be this, and someone says impactful. He's like, yes, impactful. But there's Morgan Riley saying, and Mitch Marner's goal last night was phenomenal. I'd bring it up, but I don't want to make you guys sick with my videos.
What's weird is like some people in the national media are acting surprised by Marner's success. I don't understand why anybody's surprised by it. I mean, maybe because Austin Matthews is there and he overshadows everyone. But William Nylander and Mitch Marner are 2 of the best prospects in the game right now. I don't think anybody should be surprised by the success that they're having.
No, totally. I think a lot of people were surprised because a lot of people. I mean, obviously it's not going to happen now because he's second in the NHL and rookie scoring behind Line A. But a lot of people weren't 100% sure that Mitch Marner would be able to withstand the physical pounding of the NHL. Now he's very slippery, and the thing is, he's not as slippery as a guy like Patrick Kane or Johnny Gaudreau. But he has that innate sense of being able to avoid contact, and he actually throws checks. He actually gets involved. He goes to the front of the net, which is very, very strange for somebody who's, I would say basically 5'10" and about 160 pounds. But he's incredibly skilled and incredibly quick. And if you saw that goal, he embarrassed James Reimer, and James Reimer had a horrific night last night. I'm sure
No, he really did.
Yeah.
It's a shame. I mean, he had a really, really rough night. This just in too. Ryan Murphy of the Carolina Hurricanes was reported earlier today that he might be on the move. Now I just got a text that he might be on the move to the LA Kings. We're going to keep an eye on that. But Ryan Murphy is a defenseman. The Kings have been looking for a defenseman.
Yeah, and he only played 35 games for the Hurricanes last year. He's the thing was, and we talked about him on previous buzzcasts, and Russ and I sort of agreed the same opinion that with the new NHL, with the NHL where mobility on the blue line was, a plus, that might give Murphy another chance.
Yeah,
because he is a very slick skating, he's smaller but a very slick skating and skilled defender. But right now, I mean, the thing is that Carolina does actually have decent depth on the blue line. They have some veterans, but they have Hayden Fleury, they have Hannafin, and if they get a good forward out of Los Angeles, then that might be a move that's beneficial to both teams.
Yeah. All right. So I'm gonna look into that more after the show for sure. I just sent another text out to somebody now. Ryan Murphy is it's a pretty big name guy. I mean, in terms of prospects go to be available, but he has played so little this year.
Well, it's a question of what they're getting back from Los Angeles. If it's a Kempe, if it's somebody like that, a good prospect forward, maybe that's a deal that makes sense.
I can't see the Kings trading their only legitimate prospect forward right now.
Well, I mean, it's
got to be something along those lines.
Could be Tanner Pearson.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know. I mean, unless they've really soured on Pearson. I know he hasn't played as well as he did a couple years ago, but he's not an expensive player. I would doubt it's going to be somebody like a Kyle Clifford or somebody like that. It's got to be somebody who's got some, that's.
This would definitely fill a need for the Kings, though. They need someone that can move the puck.
He's their number.
They need a lot. I mean, I watched the game last night a little bit too. I mean, they came out strong against Edmonton, and it was an okay game for them. But they've been lately have really not had that kind of luck. They've really been behind the eight ball a lot. They look slow at times, very slow.
Yeah.
Besides, and their weird thing is they're getting good goaltending. You really can't blame.
Budai's been good.
Yeah, Patrick Budai. He's been phenomenal.
He would be their number 4 behind Doughty, Muzzin, and Martinez. I mean, he probably a top 4 defenseman.
What's interesting about those 4 when you say it, okay, Doughty, obviously, forget about one of the best players in the league. But beyond that, okay, Martinez, as despite obviously winning a Stanley Cup at an overtime goal and all the excitement that comes along with Martinez, really last summer there was a lot of talk that they needed to move away from him already, right? That they were saying Martinez was like, okay, he could possibly be moved. They've got young defensemen that might be taking his space. And then he sort of had a rebirth. I mean, this is before last year. Sorry, before last year. And then last year had a really pretty good year again. Muzzin is, obviously just got recognized, by Team Canada, is picked up his game a lot. But I think Muzzin is overrated. I really do.
Muzzin's the Matt Carl of Los Angeles. He's a complimentary guy who plays with Doughty and plays well with him. But the thing with Martinez, I think the reason why he got a second look is because of the Voynov situation. They
have not recovered from the Voynov situation defensively.
Right. If Voynov stays there, I don't think he's going anywhere. So let's talk about that Kings LA game real quickly because that game, I mean the LA Edmonton game last night was made the 10th game in a row that McDavid has not scored in.
Oh boy.
Which is really, really surprising. I mean, so look at what's happened here. Look at the players who are the stars in the World Cup of Hockey for a second and look at what they're doing in the NHL, because I've noticed that there's definitely a trend here that the World Cup of Hockey guys are hitting a wall.
Well, let me before we go into that, let me just say this. I'm pretty sure that the game that McDavid had against Toronto, was November the 1st, was the beginning of this 10.
It was the beginning.
Yeah. And the Maple Leafs provided a template, and I said this the day after. They provided a template of how to shut down Connor McDavid. Nazem Kadri got underneath his skin, was physical with him. Now, Connor McDavid has got unbelievable speed, and he can get away from that stuff. But if you get in his kitchen and you annoy him it throws him off his game. It's natural. He's 19 years old. That you can overcome that, but I think it has had a detrimental effect. And to your point, Austin Matthews hasn't scored in 11 games. Barkov hasn't scored in 15.
Right. Look at Gossesbeer's healthy scratch. Gaudreau is hurt. Right. I mean, not that there's anything to do with him, but he wasn't before he got hurt. He wasn't tearing it up either. So, I mean,
the Oilers need a lot more from Jordan Eberle, Milan Lucic, Ryan Nugent-Hopkins. There is plenty of talent there. They need more. They need to take some pressure off of McDavid. It would help if they got some secondary scoring.
It would help a lot, and that's been, of course, their issue for a long time.
Ryan Nugent-Hopkins has 2 goals,
and they've screwed him up so much by playing.
They really have
on the third line.
Trade him to Long Island.
Yeah, he's a guy, right? He's a guy.
Trade him. I'll take him in a second.
I would tell you. I mean, it seems as if you can get him because he was available last year, and they're playing him in a position where he's not a third liner.
No,
you can't put him on the third line. He's not good defensively. First off, secondly, he's really good offensively, and if you give him his own team, similar to what you're seeing Hall do in New Jersey, I think you would see great things out of Ryan Nugent-Hopkins. It's completely crazy. But how many of these guys can they trade? I mean, Hall's gone, Yakupov's gone. I mean, how many of these guys can Edmonton trade before they start questioning? At some point, don't you just have to? I mean, so let's talk about something. And let me finish a sentence, actually. Sorry, I just realized I threw a bunch of sentences out in a row there without finishing them. We have seen some teams that are just crazy. They're just getting killed. Like last night, the Panthers lose 6-1, right? We saw the 10-0 game. We've seen a lot. We saw a 7-1 game the night before. What is the deal with this? I mean, why are we seeing teams getting blown away?
Well, I was going to bring that up with the Panthers because I watched all that game last night, and I actually spoke to Russ after the game. And the funny thing is, the Panthers it looks like just like with the Islanders where they made all these changes where Opozo and Nielsen went out and Ladd came in. They got rid of Brian Campbell. They got rid of Kulikov. They traded him to the Sabres. They bring in Yandel. They bring in Demers. And honestly, Aaron Ekblad played terribly last night. He had a goal, but he played terribly last night because they've been switching defensive partners on him, looking for a winning combination. They tried Yandel. They tried Demers. Now they have Mark Pysyk, the kid who they got for Kulikov from Buffalo. And Mark Pysyk is not a top-pairing defenseman. So they don't have that complement right now for Ekblad. They're without Bukestad. They're without Huberdeau. Yager is showing his age. Barkov hasn't scored in 15 games. They're one of their best forwards right now is Jonathan Marchessault. He's been playing great, but the thing is like they shouldn't be dependent on Jonathan Marchessault to carry the water for that team. And right now they are, and that's troublesome because I think they changed the chemistry of that team, and right now they're struggling because of that.
Could also be a lot of the schedule's kind of very condensed right now, more so than you would see in the beginning of the season because of the World Cup.
Yeah.
I mean, could that have something to do with it? More 3 games. It's not so much back-to-back games. These players can handle back-to-back games. It's 3 games in 4 nights or 4 games in 6 nights. I think that has a much more 4 games in 6 nights. You could go bet your mortgage on the team that hasn't had to play that. Seriously.
Oh no, you're 100% right. I mean, and I think that's a huge factor. And we're seeing teams like that's why we're seeing teams like Columbus get rid of the morning skates, so to speak. I mean, teams are just.
It makes sense. It makes sense on game day.
Oh yeah, it does. It really does. And there's a lot of teams right around 500 in the NHL right now. I mean, that's we're seeing a ton of parity. So you're also seeing that. But I think the blowouts might have more to do with what you're saying, Dan, and just the fact that you're looking at tired teams and teams that once they fall behind, there is not that impetus to we got to win tonight.
No, screw it. We'll get them tomorrow.
Right, we'll get them tomorrow, and we're not going to blow everybody out tonight if we're going to play again 2 of the next 3 nights. We got to keep this. You got to pace yourself out a little bit, and you see that. You see some teams just kind of give up. Like last night, Florida gave up in that game, and Reimer was terrible. Granted, he couldn't stop beach ball, but at the same time, Luongo hasn't been good either, and that team is in trouble because Luongo looks like he got old really fast all of a sudden.
And Reimer is proving to me that he's not enough. I mean, I had pretty much come up with the conclusion that he wasn't a number 1 goaltender in Toronto throughout the years, but he's the heir apparent number 1 in Florida for Luongo because Luongo's 37 years old. That's why they paid him over $3 million a year on a long-term contract. And if that has to happen in the next year or so, they're in deep trouble because James Reimer is not a number 1 goaltender.
No, the thing with Reimer is he always came across to me as a puck stopper and not someone who makes a save. Does that make
Yes.
sense?
No,
Yes.
he doesn't have a good glove hand. He never has had a good glove hand.
I completely agree with
he
that.
blocks
That's
shots.
a great point.
Yes.
Yeah, no, that's really true. And I mean, and we're also seeing crazy inconsistency with teams that shouldn't beat other teams winning and teams that shouldn't lose at times.
Yeah. Look at my DraftKings. I'll tell you all about that.
I know, and I got it. Are you doing it tonight?
Yeah, I sent you an invite. I did. Yeah.
Oh, good, cool. I'm doing it.
Yeah. But I am done. By the way, I am done stacking against Columbus. Beginning of the year, I was stacking against Columbus, and they kept winning. I'm like, I can't do this.
Yeah. No, you and I had a good battle there one night. It was
We
fun.
did. We did a couple last week. We had a really good battle.
Yeah, I know. We were just showing our dominance over everybody else. It was fun. But what's funny here is like I was looking at.
Hey, anyone listening right now, if you want to join our league, the Fun Bunch,
Yes.
hit me up on Twitter. I'll send you an invite.
Yeah. So what's your Twitter, Dan, again, so people know?
Dan Noodles 78.
Dan Noodles at Dan Noodles 78 on Twitter.
That's right. If you want to join our league, let us know.
Yeah. So I was looking at Carolina, right? And Carolina has.
They're another one.
I know. They've lost to teams this year, pretty badly on some occasions. And yet at home, they have beaten the Rangers.
Yep.
They beat the Blackhawks and they beat the Oilers. So, and they beat the Sharks. All right. So, the Sharks, not the Oilers. Sorry, the Sharks. They beat the Sharks. Yeah.
That's right.
And that's crazy. I mean,
Excuse me. I mean, and talk about Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde. The Maple Leafs are 7-2 at home and average over 4 goals per game. On the road, they're 1-4-3, and they're averaging just over 2 goals a game. And the only game that they won was the game that I was at in Buffalo a little while ago.
Which is almost a home game.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, but they never win there, Dan. They traditionally never win in Buffalo.
Right.
By some miracle they did. But that's the sign of a young team. They're getting hyped up. They're getting hyped up at home. They're excited. They play wide open, and Babcock gets a chance to match up Kadri against the other team's number 1 center.
Yep.
Keep Matthews away from the checking, and match up his defensive pairings accordingly. Their defense is so bad on the road that there's no way they can get around bad matchups, and their goaltending and their forwards don't score as much on the road. So that's that. And they play Montreal on Saturday. That's being built up as a big game, and the Leafs are like 1 point out of a playoff spot. Cool your Jets. I mean, it's nice. This is exciting. It's interesting. Everybody has a right to be encouraged. But come on. I mean, with that defense, there's no way they're making the playoffs. None.
I don't know about that.
Stranger things have happened.
Yeah, I don't know about saying there's
you'll have to get better goaltending, though. You'll have to get really
Yes.
Yeah.
This is Calgary. This is Calgary 2 years ago. They got unconscious offense. They got great goaltending out of Ramo and Hiller. And they had a good defense. Even
Ramos available.
There's no excuse for the Flames. Why is the Flames defense? If you look at those names on paper, why are the Flames so bad defensively?
I think that team, they worked really hard 2 years ago, or 3 years ago, was it now? I guess even that everybody was like, okay,
3 seasons ago, yeah.
It was 3 seasons ago now that everybody said, oh, they're such a hardworking team, and they were, and they made the playoffs. They didn't go far in the playoffs because they didn't have a whole lot, but they made the playoffs.
They got through a round.
They got through a
round. Yeah.
Right. And but now, I think that they overrated themselves after that year. Like it felt a lot like what we saw at Colorado's one great year, that they had that one great year, and then they overrated, and the players.
Well,
they also got amazing goaltending too, so maybe that was covering up bigger issues.
It does cover up.
It was covering up a lot of things, but look at what they did after. They added secondary players for support. They added Frolik last year. They added Brouwer this year. They added Dougie Hamilton in the trade last year. But they didn't get the goaltending this year or the last season because Ramo and Hiller came down to earth. This year they bring in Brian Elliott, and Brian Elliott is no savior. I could have told you that. So I mean,
but he's better than those two.
But the thing is, what they needed, and really where they came up short. They came up short. They tried to trade for Freddie Anderson. Toronto sweetened the deal, and they got that in free agency. Elliott's a free agent at the end of this year. They better go after Ben Bishop, because there's the difference maker in goal, because they need that big goaltender who can play 60 games and
they almost had him last year. So I mean, it's possible that
there's going to be some serious suitors for Ben Bishop where he has a much easier path to a cup than Calgary, and that's no offense to Calgary.
No, I agree, but I mean,
if I'm the Flyers, I am clearing the deck to get Ben Bishop.
Yeah, that's very possible, because I mean, when you look at all the free agents possible, like I've heard that already. Dylan Strome. Let's get into Dylan Strome. Okay, so I've been following him for a while now, about a month ago I wrote about him possibly going to the Islanders, and I heard a lot of trade talk, and since then he has been a healthy scratch for like the last I think 7 games. I think
he played last night though.
Did he play last night? I thought he wasn't playing last night.
I think he did, but I was
told he was a healthy scratch before the game, so I didn't see the actual game itself. But anyway, he played. He has played in 7 games. He's only got 1 assist. He's a -5. Yeah. It's funny. It's oddly enough, when you go to the NHL.com, he has -1 points despite his 1 assist. I don't know why that would be, but he's I guess he started. I guess his 1 assist counted against him.
He birdied the 16th.
He birdied the 16th. He's a -1, right? He's going into the final round. So anyway, so Dylan Strome is obviously a very talented player. Full of talent, often considered the more talented of the Strome brothers. And I mean, I don't know if you agree with that, Dan, or not.
No, that's the MO. That's what everybody's saying.
Going thought, right? I mean, and it has. I mean,
look, I got one disappointing Strome. I don't want a second one either.
Yeah, but like you said, that disappointing Strome had a good rookie year. Maybe you put him with the right players. I mean, it's a matter of players. Sometimes.
Yeah, I just think if the Islanders need guys, they have a resume. They need guys that have a resume. Like if you're throwing out names like, I don't know, I'm just going through some teams like Jeff Skinner or Cam Atkinson, Matt Duchene. That they need guys.
Yeah, they need
Jeff Carter. They need guys with proven track records and not more questions.
Yeah,
Strome played last night.
And we also have a head coach that has shown an inability to handle young players. So why would you that why would you
that's
make that
true
move?
too, but that coach thing could change soon. But yeah, I agree.
Yes,
I agree with you. I mean, so Dylan Strome but that's not the only team that's been talking to them. Also the Magic 3 in the in the North in the Atlantic that I always like, the Buffalo, Toronto, Montreal, those 3 teams. Buffalo really likes them a lot. I was told that's a big one, that Buffalo's been making the biggest push so far.
Well, okay. Let me be the devil's advocate here, because I really do not think, unless the opinion on Dylan Strome has changed dramatically, that the Arizona Coyotes are going to trade him 7 games into his professional career. This is, remember Sam Reinhart played for the Sabres, played 9 games his draft year, I believe. He had 1 assist. He was completely not ready for the NHL. He went back to Kootenay in the WHL, had a great year at the World Juniors. More than likely, Dylan Strome is going back to the Erie Otters. Now, I would think that Arizona, instead of keep sitting him out for games on end.
Again? I mean, this would be what this is his
he's
3rd year.
Years old, Ak. He's only
19. Yeah, he can go back. He can go back. It wouldn't hurt him to go back.
And he can play in the World Junior, and Erie is one of the better teams in the OHL. Better to do that than to throw. And I'm not saying throw away in terms of you're not going to get anything for him. I'm sure he's got a lot of value for teams, but you're not going to make a decision on a 19-year-old center, a guy who potentially could be your number 1 center 2 or 3 years down the road, because he's had a bad start. Or
he's not ready. That might, just because he's bad, he just might not be ready, as opposed to him having a bad start.
Christian Dvorak, who they drafted in the 2nd round a few years ago, who won a Memorial Cup, who was on the best junior line in hockey last year, who's 20 years old. He got sent down to the AHL with the Coyotes because he wasn't ready. It takes time with these guys. Somebody like Mitch Marner, I mean, he's got the speed, he's got the creativity, he's got that uncertain thing that allows him to be successful in the NHL at 19 years old. Dylan Strome, he's a bigger guy. He's, the speed was a bit of a question mark when he was drafted. He seems to have solved that problem. I think it's a maturation situation. I mean, of course Buffalo is interested. Of course Montreal is interested. I don't think Toronto really They've got Kadri, they've got Matthews, they got Nylander, who they can move up the middle.
I was told they really like his size a lot, and I could see
It'd be
that.
nice if they could send him to AHL. If you didn't have to send him back to juniors,
Right,
but that's where we fall. That's where we fall into this loophole.
And that's that issue. Which I think there should be one.
And that was the situation with Marner. If Marner
I really wish there was one player per team you could do that with. I think that would be the smart thing.
Or if they just changed the draft age to 19, it would close all this.
That would fix everything too. Yeah.
Joel Eriksson Ek, the Minnesota Wild first-round pick, who's 19, he played his 9th game, and they sent him back to the Swedish Hockey League. They didn't send him down to the AHL. They didn't want the first year to expire, and they wanted him to play in the World Junior instead of playing in the AHL. So with some of these guys, they would prefer them not playing in the American.
And I would agree, Mike, that logically, why would Arizona be trading Dylan Strome? But I'm just telling you that for them to be talking to that many teams, there's something going on. And I know from talking to people, that I've talked to that is happening. So for whatever reason, it's not just these other teams interested. There actually is discussion going on. So maybe they've seen something in Dylan Strome that they just don't like. Or maybe maybe Dylan Strome doesn't like it out there. I mean, I don't know any of these things, but I'm just saying that there seems to be a real reason beyond just the obvious logical part of it.
I got the answer. They're clearing up cap space now for plans to bring home Austin Matthews 6 years from now. That's what they're doing. You heard it here first. Austin Matthews is going to come home to Arizona.
Now
he wants to play there for sure.
I will say
I agree. I'm with you.
I will say that Dylan Strome and Mitch.
How's that feel, Mike, when you get that rumor flipped on you?
Yeah, like I really believe it. Dylan Strome.
I'll put an E1 on that.
Thank you. Thank you.
A P1. Dylan Strome and Mitch Marner are both from the Toronto area, both friendly, both played on the World Juniors on the same line. I mean, and I know that Toronto scouted Dylan Strome very heavily before the 2015 draft because they weren't sure where they were going to pick first, second, third, or fourth. So, yeah, it would make sense that they would be interested. But the thing is, I don't see the fit in terms of Arizona unless they're getting back a Nylander. Unless they're getting back, it doesn't make sense to trade Kadri, and their Leafs are not going to trade defense. So unless if it's a forward, it would have to be a William Nylander. And I don't know if I see that being plausible.
Yeah. But no, they won't move Nylander because they've already got chemistry shown with the big guys. So we've talked about that. But all right, we'll move on. I think I'm going to keep an eye on it though for sure. The goaltender right now in the NHL with the best save percentage, who's played at least 10 games, is who?
Tuukka Rask?
Nope, he's number 3. He's .947.
Devin Dubnyk?
Devin Dubnyk would be correct. .952.
Played a lot of DraftKings.
13 games played, .952, as opposed to Carey Price, 11 games, .948. Dubnyk has 4 shutouts in his 13 games. He's 7-5-1. I mean, talk about like a guy that's not getting much goal support. I mean,
he's lost a lot of 1-0 games.
Yeah, he must have.
He's facing a lot of shots too. There's a lot of nights he's facing 30+ shots. I would say in his probably the last 6-7 games, he's probably faced 30 shots in all of them.
Yeah, and he's been phenomenal. I mean, and people, were all over him last year because he signed the big contract after the huge run the year before. And this year he's back to where he was, after he was traded to Minnesota originally. So
I just don't know what to make of the Wild. You look at that team on paper and they should be able to score goals.
Yeah, no, they really should. They really should. And it's very strange. They I honestly do think that they've got a bad top group, and I think that there's something chemistry weird. There's a weird chemistry thing going on with that team.
They have an old top group back. I mean,
yeah, no, they're an older group, and Parise and Suter are.
And I'm talking up front. Parise, Pominville, Mikko.
Yeah. But particularly, I've heard things about those 2 guys of being like not the easiest guys to work with, and just different situations have gone on there. I just think they need to figure that out.
Well, I know the one thing that Boudreau has done since coming in there, he's lowered the minutes of Ryan Suter dramatically. He used to be a 30-minute a night guy, and then would have nothing in the tank when they got to the playoffs. Right. They have a pretty decent defense with Dumba and Spurgeon.
Oh yeah, no, for sure.
Stahl's played. Boudreau's got Stahl going too. He's played well.
Yeah.
Yeah. He's played really well. Now, there's a guy in the NHL. This is a crazy stat I saw yesterday. This is my crazy stat for the day. Is this one? There is a player in the NHL right now who's in the top scorers, who is a forward, who is who's averaging 24 minutes a game as a forward, which is something that that's something you never see,
Is that
right?
McDavid?
Nope.
Because
not
he's
McDavid.
averaging a ton of ice time.
He's averaging a ton of ice time. Yeah.
Hmm.
I'm not sure what McDavid's averaging. I can check that out.
I think it's around 20.
Yeah, this guy I saw 24 minutes a game, and that is something that that's a defenseman. That's a defenseman number. So
Yeah,
and his numbers, and this time's only going to go up because I'll just give it to you guys because it is a little hard to guess. But this would be Kucherov. Okay.
Okay.
Kucherov playing 24 minutes a game.
But he wasn't worth signing to a long-term extension. No, it was smarter to get him on a bridge deal.
No, but that's all
they
they
got
could
him
do.
signed. Who cares? They got him signed.
They could do it was smart because that's all they could do. Now, however, with Stamkos going out, it's interesting how this plays out because you could really see, this gives them a lot of cap space right now to play with. And as we get towards the trade deadline, if Stamkos is indeed out for 4 months, which is weird because that injury usually is not a 4-month injury. Talking to people before, that's like a 6 to 8 week injury.
It's not a scope though. I think that's the big reason.
Okay.
Yeah, this was.
It's not a scope surgery. It's an under the knife surgery.
Right. Okay. And
apparently the one they compared it to was Zach Parise, who had the same type of injury, and his recovery was I think 3.5 to 4 months.
Okay.
So.
It just sucks because you want to see
really
Stamkos out
there.
there.
Yeah, I know. And how many years now? It feels like
it's something different too every time. It's not like it's the same nagging injury.
And I'm writing about this today, Dan. Of course, in retrospective analysis, and it's like, say the Maple Leafs had signed Stamkos with this history, and this is the third major injury. This has cost him a good chunk of 3 seasons. Imagine him signing a 7-year deal for $77 million, and then 15 games into that contract, he has this injury, and they lose him for the year. That would have been a disaster for the Maple Leafs. Financially they can handle it, but the whole reason for them not wanting to sign Stamkos was to be a leader on that team. You can't be a leader if you're not on the ice. I think Tampa can handle this. I think Tampa.
Yeah, they've done it before.
They'll do it again. But to your point, Eck. Yeah, $8.5 million. If they manage this correctly and say it's 4.5 months instead of 4, which they'll do, if he's ready to come back the last week of March, they'll say, you know what, take off the next 10 days because then we can go out at the deadline and bring in a winger or bring in a defenseman and not have any kind of cap ramifications. They will do that. Steve Yzerman's smart enough that he will do that.
Oh yeah, no, he will, and I think you'll see something. They don't have to do anything right now because of
Josh
where they
Bailey
are.
would look nice in that team, and I take him for you can send me back. You can send me back a Ziploc bag full of sunshine. I'll trade if you put me in charge right now. I would trade anyone on that roster, not named Tavares and not named Sorokin. Everyone else is for sale.
Everyone else is gone. There you go. Interesting. Wow.
Not a Ziploc bag of something else, right, Dan?
There you go. It's tough. And the thing about Stamkos' injuries, just to finish that off for a second, is the concept of that he's the kind of player who doesn't play tentatively. No,
not at all.
And when you get injured like this, it takes its toll. It takes its toll on a player's style eventually. It makes you have to think a little bit more. And because he's not that kind of he plays like Nathan McKinnon plays kind of. They really are just completely. They like to be involved and they go into the corners and they go to the net. And it just stinks.
And one thing may not have anything to do with the other, but at the beginning of the Leaf game yesterday, they showed a little video montage of the injuries that Stamkos had, and the leg that he hurt running into the post in Boston was his right leg, and this knee injury was his right knee.
Oh,
you don't know how much stress and strain that he put on that leg getting back into shape so he could get back in the Olympics 4 years ago, and how that may have contributed down the line to more injuries. The thing that drives people crazy about Stamkos right now is everything is different. It's a broken leg, a torn meniscus, and blood clots. It's not the same thing. It's not Bobby Orr with the same knee injury over and over.
Right,
Well, is that good or bad? That might be better because if it keeps being that, look, I have had 6 procedures on my shoulder. I cry when it rains sometimes.
Right.
You know, so I would rather have one shoulder, maybe a jaw, maybe an ankle, maybe a knee. You know, it's like because once they heal, they heal.
But at a certain point, you wonder if he's the Samuel Jackson character from the movie Unbreakable or Joffrey.
No, it just sounds like a Toronto conspiracy theory.
So that's the last thing today. Mark Edward Vlasic had a reaction to the NHL tying the Olympics to the CBA, which we talked about yesterday at length, and I think is really a bad move from their part. And because of the fact I know the players are looking at this like, wow, we really aren't partners at all if you're doing that. That's really putting us into a horrible spot.
Yep.
His reaction was this. He's like, I started laughing, Vlasic said on Thursday. This is according to Kevin Kurtz of CSN. If you're formerly a Philadelphia Flyer guy, and remember Kevin Kurtz really well. He said, that's not negotiating. It's just not. As an athlete, it's your right to go to the Olympics. I don't know if the report is true. I hope it's not. That's not the way you negotiate things. But if it is true, all of a sudden they don't mind having a 2-week break in the NHL for a 3-year collective bargaining agreement. He said, if they don't allow players to go, that's just, in my opinion, you don't do that. You just don't do that. This is Vlasic. So
the only problem I have with that statement is, no, you do not have a right to go to the Olympics. It's whether the owners who pay your salary tell you can.
And I agree with what you're saying. And especially from your Republican perspective. But I do agree with that. But I think that sorry, as my one political thing for the day. I get one a day. So this is but I do want to say that it's more than that. This really is about trying to it sends such a bad message. Like I said yesterday, go ahead, Dan. I want your opinion.
Here's the thing that bothers me with the league. We're not going to go to South Korea because it's too much of an inconvenience. We don't want to inconvenience the league. We don't want to shut down the league. We're not getting anything for it. But 4 years after that, we can make money in China.
Right.
It's the same horrible time zone. It's the same horrible games around at 4 a.m, but we can make money in China, so we'll go there. And I think the players see through that.
Oh, they do. They definitely.
So it's like that's where if I'm a player, I'd be like, screw you.
Well, what the NHL is saying here is we don't want to go to the Olympics, especially the ones in 2018. But we will swallow that bitter pill if you give us something that benefits us, which means 3 more years of labor peace. That's the long and the short of it. If you give us something, we'll give you something that you supposedly want. If all this was BS and it's we want to go to the Olympics. Yeah, you want to go to the Olympics on the owner's dime. You want to go on the Olympics because it gets you a gold medal because it's
these players would go on their own dime if you gave them the choice.
Okay,
I don't buy that.
That's great.
Yeah, no, they would. I mean, they wouldn't. I mean, it's a lot of money to pay for the insurance and stuff like that. There's a lot of money involved with it. But I think at the end of the day, NBC is going to be the telling in this thing because I think they're the ones who don't want the NHL and the Olympics happening at the same time. They don't want to. They have, I mean, you've worked with networks, Dan. I think that's really spreading your talent thin.
That would be bad. That'd be really bad for NBC trying to still do its games and also do the Olympics at the same time. And then you're taking they're 2 of your flagship things you have in your network, and you're splitting your focus. Your NHL. Honestly, if I was NBC and the players don't go, I wouldn't televise a game in that 2-week span because they'd be worthless because all eyes are on the Olympics.
And you want people to come to NBCSN to watch the Olympics, right? I mean, that's a big part of why you have the Olympics, to give that network more,
Right.
Are you going to send Mike Emmerich to Pyongyang so he can broadcast the Olympic version of the World?
Yes, I am, because I'll tell you why. Whoever's playing in that tournament will get a better rating than your regular Wednesday night rivalry game.
Exactly, you're right.
You can have Penguins versus Capitals, followed by Red Wings versus Kings, and the USA Belarus game on MSNBC will get a better rating. Write it down.
I'm with you 100%.
Because the Olympics attracts the nationalism of rooting for your country, and people watch it because it's an event. Whether they're not going to just watch the Penguins and Bruins on a Wednesday night.
Right.
But if the NHL is going to the Olympics, the NHLPA is going to have to agree to this, and I don't think they will. So I don't think they're going.
I don't think they'll have to agree with this. What they didn't say, they came just shy of making it ultimatum. It's more of like, I don't think the NHL wanted this to get out, by the way. I know they didn't. But that, that was kind of naive to think it wouldn't. But they didn't say that we're definitely not going to the Olympics. They just said they would definitely go to the Olympics if they did that. But they can easily come back and say NBC wants us to do it, and they have their way. They have their out with NBC. They have a way.
That would be a pretty empty threat act if they did that.
Well, no, it isn't. That's a lot of players do feel it's an empty threat. A lot of players think they're going anyway. They do. I've talked to people, and that's the feeling. So they're not going to accept this because why would they accept this? The weird thing about it is like by the NHL is saying they would like this CBA to go for another 3 years. The players are suddenly thinking, wait a second, if the NHL likes this CBA, shouldn't we be negotiating something about it? Like, shouldn't we be
you're right.
pushing it the other way? You know, like because in the past,
this was not a good negotiation play.
No, it's not a good.
Don't tip your hand. Don't tip your hands, the owners, that you're happy with the CBA.
And don't tie something as wonderful as the Olympics into something as horrible as the CBA. Like if you're going to do, it's like you have this.
No, that's a great point, Nick.
Really, it's just like now that's all connected, and now they say accept the CBA, and now they go to the Olympics. It's all really messed up. They're not going to accept this. There's no way the players are not going to say 3 more years. So, but that doesn't mean we're not going to go to the Olympics. I still think it's about 50-50. I still think that NBC could put their foot down and say we really because they have a lot of power, and then the NHL has their out. Because otherwise, the NHL is a vacant threat if the NHL pulls off on their own. But the NHL could say, "Well, listen, the NBC really wants you guys to the Olympics." That's it. That's my feeling on it. And that's all the time we have for today and for this week, for that matter. We will be back again on Monday. Remember, guys, without the buzz, it is just hockey. Have a great weekend. Thanks so much for supporting us. Go to patreon.com/hockey and feel free to pledge there to help the show out. We really appreciate it. Remember, without the buzz, it is just hockey. We will talk to you soon.